So they just keep getting bigger and bigger. Tiles these days, it's just amazing what they can make now. The stone look-alike, the beautiful artwork they basically create on these panels. This is a porcelain tile, 24 by 48. And we're gonna be putting this on the floor. So there's gonna be minimal grout joints and it's gonna be really easy to clean and it's really gonna set off the bathroom. So I'm gonna show you a bunch of tips about this because it does take a little bit of extra time and care when you're installing this to make sure it's done right. And you don't wanna mess up a piece because that's like 8 square feet right here. So let's get into it. If there is one thing that I wish I would have purchased when I first started being a tile contractor, it would be these Pro knees. These are absolutely amazing knee pads. And what's really amazing about them is that they don't cut off the circulation to your knees. So they're kind of like hockey goalie pads, but there's no strap above here. So when I lean down, it immediately just protects everything underneath of here. It's really easy to move around and it has a ton of cushion here. So this is gonna make you last a lot longer as a contractor. I highly advise you get this one of the main things that you get when you become a tile contractor. All right, so one of the first things I would do is use some 1/4-inch material. This is just like a 1/4-inch plywood. I made some strips out of it because I want to template this floor. Those tiles, these big tiles, they're really expensive, 4x8 or 2x4s. And so that's 8 square feet of tile that if you cut wrong, I mean, that's a lot of money to throw away. So I really recommend templating everything so you can get a real good visual of what things are gonna look like. And you might adjust things to work the way that you want to. So, I mean, I'm a big fan of the templating in a small bathroom like this. It just makes a lot of sense. So we're gonna go ahead and cut these strips, make it tight to the room, and then we'll check it out with the tile. Now we have a lot of wiggle room because we're going to be putting base trim down. So you can, kind of leave a little bit of a gap if you want. I mean, you can almost, you can be off a 1/2 inch and still be okay with this. So I want to just put this right next to my vent to indicate the side of this. It should be close enough. We'll be able to measure it, making sure it's equal with the tile when we do it. But you can see even here, my wall's not very straight, but that's not a big deal. The base trim is going to cover this. So we got about 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch here. Just want to pay attention to the tub. Now I think the tub needs to be a little bit adjusted, but I'll test that out when I put the tile down. Because this apron isn't 100% straight. The other thing I want to do is put something for around my toilet flange. Yeah, so I've learned over the years you have to mark front on here so you don't forget which side is facing up because that could really screw you up. Wow, that really is a piece of artwork. Now we just got to maybe move things around where it makes more sense. So one thing I want to mention about the tile layout. Now these are 48-inch pieces, and it's usually recommended anything over 15 inches in length. You want to put a 3rd pattern on your tile. That's at least what the TCNA is recommending. But it really depends on how flat everything is. This tile is absolutely unbelievably flat. So you could really pretty much set this however way that you wanted to. If you wanted to do a 1/2 pattern, you most likely could, but always just look down the edge of your tiles, see how flat it really is. But going right against my level here, I'm absolutely impressed. To have such a long piece of tile being so straight and flat is unusual. And we're not gonna, and the main reason that you wanna either keep it in this kind of pattern or do 3rd patterns is if there is any bow in the middle, you're gonna have a hard time eliminating any lippage in between the tiles. Because a lot of times, most of the time, it's raised up in the middle. So then if you put your 1/2 pattern right here in the middle, it's at the worst point of trying to push this tile down to meet the edges of your other pieces. But in this instance, this tile, you could pretty much do whatever you wanted to. We're gonna most likely just stick with a standard pattern where everything's lined up with each other. And yeah, I mean, it really is gonna make it simple. It's gonna be a little bit less cutting and a little bit less waste overall by not doing the half pattern. But it really is your choice on how you wanna make it look. All right, what do we need to change? Turn around the other way.
Yeah, just turn it around.
Where? Where do you want these two at the end? On this side?
In the middle.
In the middle? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, you can't. It is kind of like marble, and everyone has to have their opinion on what it looks like. I mean, you'll be able to get perspective here that it's not centered, but like, what does it matter? Yeah, I mean, because the toilet is basically coming out 26 inches.
Oh, yeah. Toilet is. That looks really bad. Yeah.
So then
Yeah.
coming off of there is like 26, it'd be right here. All right, so we'll go ahead and now we got decided which way we're going here. We're actually gonna leave full tiles over here, and then this will be underneath the toilet in the vanity area. Kind of gives it you see more of the full scope of the tile. And also less cutting, anything you could do to make less cutting will definitely help out. So I'm gonna go ahead and use a magic marker and mark where my toilet is, mark where my vent is, and then we're gonna go straight down the edge here. Template is definitely the way to go. Really helps out. So what we'll do is we'll cut and we'll dry fit this in the bathroom before we cut those tiles over here. Just to make sure that if we have to move, if there's any adjustment cuts at the tub, we'll be able to do it. Okay, so I have a spare flange here that I'm gonna basically outline. I'm a little nervous, but I do have 2 extra pieces. That's a problem with this stuff. It comes in 2 pieces per box. And it's really hard to just buy just enough for what you're doing. Because if you screwed up a piece and you split something, then you got to order something. You're putting the whole job behind. So unfortunately, you have to expense or charge the customer or let them know that you need 2 more pieces. I didn't really need 2 more pieces, but they ship them in 2 per box. So I had to get an extra 16 square feet of this. So I do have a backup if something messes up, but I'd say that's probably the most stressful part of this is cutting it and then making a mistake. Ultimately, until you're, even if the cost of waiting for more tile is just too high. If you're a contractor trying to do one job after another, even if these panels were $300 a piece, I'd rather spend the $600 than have to wait 2 weeks for this stuff to come in and then come back to the clients, because you can't finish the job, you can't get paid. It kind of holds up your next job. So you're better off to buy the extra couple of pieces. And if it's just extra, it's just extra. But, that's one thing. On any type of tile job, you have to buy an extra amount. Normally it's 20%. But with these bigger tiles, you're talking, almost 35% more than what you would need. Technically, this is all waste here. So yeah, you're wasting a lot of tile in smaller bathrooms with this, but the end look is just absolutely amazing. So I think it's ultimately worth it. It just is a high dollar extra, expense to do this type of tile. All right, so we'll go ahead and we're gonna dry fit this and see how things fit. I kind of had already an idea that this is what that was going to look like. So coming over here, this tub apron is kind of pushed out a little bit here on the edge. So I got about a 1/4 inch gap here and it goes to nothing here. So I'm just going to actually take my marker and just cut part of this line off so that this fits further back. So that's probably going to adjust my cuts a little bit on this side. The template was really primarily just to help me analyze what my pieces were going to look like. That template isn't something that I would just completely cut off of, because stuff like this, you want to have this. I mean, I'm going to make this fairly tight. You technically want to like have at least a 1/16 inch joint between the tub and this, so that when you caulk it, when caulking goes into a groove, it holds a much better than just smearing it across the two surfaces. So that's why I'm going to cut this back a little bit. So really, your biggest friend for any of this is going to be a grinder with a good blade. So this is a ruby blade that I have here for porcelain tile. Definitely going to want to get something that's for porcelain. This is very dense stuff. It's almost 3/8 of an inch thick. So what I'm going to do is use a wet sponge. I'm going to show you a couple different ways about cutting this, but this is probably the most accurate one because you can see the blade, and then using water is going to make the cleanest cut in a lot of ways. So we're going to go ahead and try to scribe this. I'm not going to take that whole line off, but I'm just going to take it a little bit at a time and then dry fit it and make sure that it fits okay. Much better. So it's pretty good all the way across there. I like that. So let's go ahead and get our next piece. Oh, why did that do that? Sure did. Why the hell did it do that? Well, I guess we're gonna have to flip this around the other way then. I can't believe that happened. Yeah, that was pretty good. That's nice. Nice against there. Works good around the toilet. Good. Okay, so this is definitely a luxury item, but this is a grinder with a shop vac attachment. I have one that basically a HEPA vac that has a plug indicator, so as soon as I press the button, it turns on the shop vac. Now, this is a CGX blade. This is one of my favorite porcelain blades. The one cumbersome thing about this is that it's hard to see the blade. So I don't typically use this on anything that I really have to get a nice accurate cut, like the cut I just made for against the tub. I probably wouldn't use this. But for something like this on the floor, you're gonna have base trim that covers over it. So even if I'm wildly off, it's not a big deal. So this is really effective at keeping the dust down and not having to deal with that. So this is the second way that you can go about doing this here. Okay, so you can see it's not perfect. It doesn't have to be. Again, this probably wouldn't be something I would try to be getting a real finished, accurate cut, but this will definitely do for what we're doing here. Everything fits nicely up against that tub. Once things are a little bit uneven, but that's because the floor is a little bit. So we'll get to the toilet and then we'll work on this vent cover. Okay, for this guy, I do like using these little Squadra blades. So they're just like a little bit smaller and they help do radiuses and other fine tuning things. You could also see how thin this blade is. I mean, it's literally half as thin as these other blades. So this helps out a lot to be able to go around an area like this. Now, a toilet doesn't have to be 100% accurate. You can be a ½ inch off and it really wouldn't matter because the toilet covers the actual cut. But if you try to be as accurate as possible, it really helps out. Mm-hmm. All right, So one thing that will help you out is a Grabo for big tiles like this. Just a big suction cup. Okay, so the ideal way to make a nice cut for around a Schluter edge is to use a slide cutter. I wouldn't mind just taking a sliver all the way down here so that I can make sure that it fits well. All right, so this is pretty awesome. This is gonna be the third way that we cut these big tiles. So this is a tabletop for the IQ saw. So you gotta take your little extension out. It's a very simple thing. So normally you're locked down in place. Just release it, allow it to sit up. And then basically this has a little tab right here. So sit this over top of your guard and it locks it into place. Bring your tabletop down. And now, so this little side piece here comes off. And this is your guide rail for a piece of tile. It's so amazing. I think this is just the coolest thing in the world here. So you just lock that into place. So we're gonna be going 11 3/4. So 11 3/4. That's pretty awesome. So take a look at that cut. That's not bad at all. Not bad at all. You can just sand this up a little bit with a sanding pad. This is really awesome. I love this. It's just the fact that you could cut a 48-inch piece like that. But any little slight chip, you could just sand this down and be in good shape. I mean, that's pretty dang slick. That's really slick.